And we're back. Welcome to the weekly roundup, the place where we unpack what's going on in the yoga and wellness world and what we've been coaching our clients through. I'm here with Terri and Bridget. Josh should be on a little bit later. And we are here and we're talking about the summit's coming up sooner than it comes up quickly.
Yeah,
I've been getting questions about it. Lots of people are interested. And so we thought we'd kind of kick it off with like, what is the big deal? It is a big deal, I have to
it's
say.
a big deal.
It's a huge deal. It can make significant impact in your business. And so, Terry, why are you laughing?
It's a big, beautiful deal.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I didn't mean to
I
go
could,
there.
I could not resist that. I could not resist that.
So yeah, let's talk about it. What is the summit like? Why do we encourage people to go, and what do you get out of it? Who wants to, I mean, I could
Why
keep
don't
talking.
you start, Carol? Because you actually have the singular distinction of having gone to the summit as an attendee before
Yeah.
when you owned your studio. And then now you've had the benefit of going to the summit as a coach. So I'm going to kick it back to you and say you're the most practical one to talk about this. And then we can share other things. But yeah,
Yeah.
why did you decide to go to the summit? What was it, 2019 or it was 2019?
2019. I went in
Yeah.
2019. We were just ready, I don't know. I don't remember exactly why I wanted to go. I knew that it would help our business and I knew some other people that were going and thought it sounded like a good idea. And I got to tell you, it was really it I was so fired up and ready for 2020. I was like, this is it. This is the year. You know? And still we hung in there and having the community was super helpful during COVID. But anyway, what in a nutshell, the summit is a place where we spend the week planning for your next full year of business ownership. And what that means is like, what are the three major dominoes or goals that you want to set and crush for the next year? And narrowing down the top three helps you stay focused for the year, right? Because there's a million things you can do as a studio owner. I mean, you can keep yourself really busy with these things, but if you can really focus on these three main goals throughout the and we add the tactics that are going to help you reach those goals and then the tasks that are associated to really put these into practice. And if you can really stay focused throughout the year on those three things or those three goals and the tactics and tasks behind it, the moving of the needle is like, whew, right?
Yeah.
You can just,
So
hmm
So speaking like, okay, so you went in 2019, which would have been fall 2019, and
yeah,
then I'm for me, I didn't never had an opportunity. I hadn't met Josh yet, and so I wasn't aware of the summit. But for me, the first quarter, even though we shut down in Massachusetts halfway through March, my January, it was like off the charts. I mean, I was on track to, crush my goals that year. And however, do you feel, Carol, that by going to the summit and really having a plan dialed in, I mean, I know it's kind of hard to quantify, but do you feel that having done that, did that help you during the pandemic and then even maybe like into 2021? Do you find that having been there, you mentioned the community,
yeah,
yeah, tell us a little bit more about how you felt that helped, because I think that's one of the sort of intangibles about the summit.
yeah. Well, first and foremost, it helped me reframe how I thought about my business and some of the major impactful things that could move the needle. And then, yeah, absolutely seeing and meeting other studio owners at all different levels. Like some have just started ownership, some had multiple locations, and getting inspired and inspiring others in that community was really, that you can't we always felt living in St. Louis, there weren't other studio owners around that we could talk to. And we kind of felt like we were on an island of like, what do we do? And then once you meet these people, you're much more comfortable with reaching out and asking questions. And of course, once March of 2020 hit, it was like, I think the value of having that community, I can't even quantify because it was like, oh, we tried this for virtual and it worked, and this is the microphone you need. And this is like the pivoting that we all had to do so quickly and reiterate throughout the months following. It was, I don't know if I would have survived or known how to do it otherwise. It was so helpful to have that
So it
community.
certainly, yeah, it certainly would have been more challenging without the community. So
100%.
yeah, I love what Carol said. So really, for me, like I can speak to how what my clients and I have a client, and I'll give her a shout out, Kristen Sapp at Orange Lotus Yoga in Exton, PA. Woo-hoo. She's probably like our one of our long term, and we have quite a few long term YC committee members, and she's been to every summit since we started, plus the virtual summit that happened, I guess, in 2020.
Mhm.
And she definitely, you can, and every year she goes, she has her plan. And then if you talk to her, um, she'll tell you that that is what's helped her grow her business. And when we set the number of members that she wanted, I think it was last year, 2024. And she was like, I said, let's go for it. And she said, okay. And Josh said, yep, you're going to be there. And she was a little bit skeptical about that. And lo and behold, she hit that goal before the end of the year.
Amazing.
Right. And so I think what it does help, we talk about the getting the main goals, getting the strategies to support that goal. So, okay, increase revenue, that, typically that's a goal. Okay. Well, how are we going, how are you going to do that?
Right.
What specifically are you going to do? Because there's a lot of different ways to increase revenue. So specifically, what are you going to do to increase revenue? What is a strategy that is going to help you increase revenue? And then after the strategy, what is the actual task to the point of assigning dates? So for people who use Asana, they actually are working in their Asana, getting everything set up so that, again, using Kristen as an example, one of her goals was to change her billing. It was a small goal, a small thing, but had big impact. Was she wanted to change her membership billing from monthly to every 4 weeks. Because when you change your billing to every 4 weeks, if you haven't thought about it, is you get almost an immediate 8 to 10% increase in the year because you have one more payment a year, as opposed to doing 12 payments a year. You now have 13, and it really is 4 weeks. So if you think about it, it's very equitable because some months are longer than other months. So you're paying for 4 weeks at a time. And so she already had was working on the emails while she was there. She had all these other things done, so that was, granted, that was a small part of it, but she was able to get a lot of that stuff done. And that's what the summit is about,
Yeah.
is really just drilling in and dialing in. A couple of years ago, we had a member go, and his main goal, he brought his manager, and the owner hardly did anything in the biz labs. But what he went specifically for, and because I asked him at the end of the summit, we have an awesome boat party. DJ Carol shows up. She is an awesome DJ. And I was talking with him on the boat.
Playlist maker, really, but
Yeah. I asked him what he
What
felt
is a
about it.
DJ? Not.
If he got some, he goes, I absolutely accomplished what I wanted this week. He said, I got to talk to other owners, find out what they're doing. We have a couple of members that have multiple locations. He was looking to expand, so he was able to talk to some people that had multiple locations. And so for him, his manager was doing all the work. Because yes, you can bring your manager or your right-hand person or whatever was doing in the actual, he helped set the goals and then left it to his manager, the strategies and tactics and all that kind of stuff. But for him, that was the most important thing for him.
Yeah.
And so he got that out of it.
Yeah.
And we also have fun. Bridget, you never made it to a summit, did you?
No, I really wanted to. The one that I was going to, I ended up having a important family wedding during the same time, but I am genuinely so bummed. And I am actually, for those who don't know, I still own my studio, and I am genuinely thinking about just sending my manager, and just having her do her thing. I just was thinking as you were both speaking, like just knowing how impactful coaching is, both from a like the coachee side, which I was for many years with the YC, and now on the coaches side, like I know and I see how impactful coaching is. And that's 1 hour a week, like a few times, you know, three or four times a month or whatever. Think about that, but like for
Condensed.
an entire week, hours a day, like how much fucking impact that can have. Like that's just like supercharged of how much impact we can have because our coaching is so impactful and what we do here, it does make such a difference in your business. And there's only so many hours in a day. There's only so much when you're just in life running your business, you're pulled in a million different directions and you just don't have the time to sit down for, what is it, 4 or 5 days and just like crush things, like 4 days of just, and obviously we don't just work at the summit. We also drink margaritas and do yoga and listen to DJ Carol
The
on
beach bonfire.
the
There's
beach
some,
bonfire.
yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot.
But just yeah, like it's just I can't. I'm so pissed I never did it. I'm genuinely thinking like, what if I just said to Josh like I can't go as a coach and then just showed up as a participant?
Well, you have an option there, but whether you show up as a coach or as a studio owner, I
Yeah,
would send your manager, and I expect to see her sign up by the end of the day, Bridget.
I
Um,
mean,
I
amen.
mean, amen to that, girl. So I also, so sometimes one of the things that can be when you sit down to plan is like, and that's the other impactful thing about the summit is, okay, I can set the goals, but which goals should I set and where should I focus? Because I need to do this and I need to do this. And it's, so
Yeah,
that's the other thing is we help you figure out what would be the most impactful. Because one of the things we do look at and yes, we do have homework for people before they come is they have to bring their updated KPIs. They have to bring their updated profit and loss statement so that we can look and identify where are the opportunities and what are the things you can have the highest impact on to move the needle
yeah,
the quickest. Sometimes it's really obvious,
yeah,
and sometimes it might take a little bit more parsing of the data. I can say that oftentimes with people first time the summit, it's it can be readily apparent versus our clients who have been coming year after year, because every year they come, they get more granular and their goals become very more specific and more specific. And so that's the other thing is our attendees that come, some come every year, some come like every other year, is that it helps level you up as a business owner in learning how to set goals and strategies and tactics. So then it becomes more second nature to you. And so, yeah, so that I think is one of the most impactful things. And I can tell you, I'm straight up, I was running some numbers we talked about the other day and looking at, and I'll do the same when we get closer to this year, is from 2023 to 2024, the people that had come to the summit, or the different, not just the summit, but people came to the summit in 2024. When we looked at their year over year growth from 2023, the average growth rate, was 33%.
yeah. That's great.
And that wasn't just brand new studios, because yes, we had a couple of newer studios, and of course their growth is going to be like 70%, right, over the previous year. However, we had studios been in business for almost 20 or 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Single locations, multiple locations. And then I always mess this up, Bridget, you corrected me the day. It's the mean or medium?
Well, there's the mean, which is the average, and then the median is
The
like the
median,
middle number.
middle. Okay, thank you. I always forget that. The median
How
was,
embarrassing if I'm wrong. Like that would
I
be
think you're right. Somebody Google it. So the
so
median
confidently.
means middle. Yeah, medium was 27%.
Uh-huh.
And again, for studios that have been in business a long time, that's significant, significant growth. And I think the other thing that we hear from owners a lot, and Carol, you can speak to this probably. I think we all can, but specifically with the summit, is confidence. the confidence as an entrepreneur, particularly if, and we see this with clients and business owners, is when you're in that running your business from a position of fear,
Mm-hmm.
and that you can't make changes because your teachers are going to quit or the front desk is going to quit, and you're feeling powerless. So that's the other real advantage of something like the summit, is giving you the confidence as an owner to make tough decisions. Maybe they don't happen overnight. However, it can be the catalyst when you're in a group of people where they have extreme success, that it can give you the confidence to say, well, Carol did it, Bridget did it. I know I should be able to do that.
Yeah.
What do they say? It's like you're the combination of the top
Yeah. I
10
was
people
yeah,
who've been
just
around, like,
thinking about
yeah. And it's like if you aren't around people that are successful like
that.
that, it's really hard to understand or like get into that mindset and vibe. And so that, yeah, exactly what you're saying, Terry.
Oh,
It's like you're suddenly like, oh, that's the feeling, the attitude, the confidence that I need to know how to go back and run my business more successfully. So, yeah.
that's so true, Carol. I was thinking the same thing both today and when we were talking about it recently at a meeting, of that thing. Like you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. And I have been thinking about that also in like the, okay, I'm not throwing shade.
Okay, no
But
shade. No, no, no. And we never say but. I'm not throwing shade.
I'm
And
not throwing shade.
asterisk,
And
asterisk.
I, sometimes I'll be in like boutique fitness studio owner manager groups, and you're you're in there and you're asking a question, and there's no control over which of these people is answering your question. And sometimes I see people confidently answering questions who the other day just posted about how they had to get a second job, or like because their business is falling apart. And then someone will ask a question and they'll be like, oh no, I know what to do. It is so powerful. It was so powerful for me. I didn't even know about any of these places that yoga studio owners congregated. And I knew one other successful yoga studio owner like in my life, but she was in a totally different state and she's really busy. She's too busy to just spend all her time talking to me. And when I got plugged into like the places where really successful yoga studio owners hung out, which is what you will get at the summit, because all of these people, or many of them, you can totally come if you're not coaching with us, but many of them have been coaching with us for a long time, and they're not going to give you shitty advice. Like they and you're going to have all of the people facilitating there who are successful yoga studio owners, past and present. And that you really do need to be careful who you take advice from and who you um immerse yourself in, I guess, the groups you immerse yourself in. And this is such a powerful way to like extremely increase the quality of the business owners that you're around.
Yeah, I actually had to have I had a conversation with a client several months ago because she's working with us and she was at a summit last year and we're working through some things. And she was friends with another studio owner in her area. And then that person had some, whatever it was like every time we came to a decision, it sounded like she was going to, and then coming back with me, well, what about this? And a lot of like, because they didn't agree. Sometimes they don't agree, and finally I just said to her, I just said, look, I said, I'm just really sensing that we're wasting time because we worked on this thing And one of the things was her pricing. I said, we worked on your pricing. We really gave a lot of thought, you know, because pricing is big for us, optimizing your pricing. We
Huge.
really dialed it in. We had numerous calls about it. We talked about things. We didn't just willy-nilly decide these prices. It was very thoughtful. This is what we do. And this other person was casting doubt on everything. And I finally just said, look, we have now wasted both of our times redoing this and coming up with the exact same answer. I said, so I'm just saying that, what do you want to do? Do you want to work with us, with me? Or if you choose, you could go work with this other person. But right now, and she go, oh, no, I don't want to work with you. I said, great. It's like, then stop listening to those other people, right? To your point, Bridget. So that's the other thing too, is being with the like-minded entrepreneurs. Josh, to catch you up real quick, we're just talking about the summit and what you can get out of the summit and what happens when you're with like-minded entrepreneurs. And, you know, one of the things we were just talking about is you level up, right? Bridget, we're talking about not running your business from a position of fear and being around like-minded entrepreneurs. And we will post in the follow-up, but just to let everybody, when we're talking about it, if you don't know and you're still tuned in, the summit is from Sunday, the 9th of November through the 13th of November. You can find it on our website. And then, so it's check-in on the 9th. There's 4 intense days. And if you want, we have an optional, we call it our GSD day. That's the Get Shit Done Day. So just so you have the dates out there. And oh, also, Josh, Bridget's going to send her manager. She's going to sign her.
I
No,
said,
no, baby, forgot it. You said it, girl.
We've got it. We've got it on recording live.
You got it on recorded live.
Your
And,
manager's going to be like, you said you're sending me to Mexico. I'm going
I
on
know.
vacay.
And actually, Bridget also is thinking whether she should go as a coach or maybe she should as an attendee, Josh.
That's the thing. I'm not going as a coach. I'm just gonna buy my ticket and go myself.
Yeah.
You're definitely coming as a coach. You know, the peer group thing is like such an obvious value point. Like, we all understand that inherently, but I don't think that people strategize for it that often. Like, you have to get to it's kind of like this surprise thing. It's similar to a yoga studio in that, like, you might not have gone to your first studio or your Pilates class or whatever because you're like, I want to join a community. That wasn't the core motivator. It was something more personal. But then that might be a huge component for why you stay, and like a surprise value point. And that can impact your life in a bazillion ways. But specific to the summit and as an entrepreneur, I think the two things are, one, realize that one of the problems that you might have as an entrepreneur is the belief that you have problems. And that's a weird way to say it, but why I say that is because if you don't surround yourself with people who help you expand on your path, if you surround yourself with people who drag you down, or even don't drag you down, but are suppressing your growth, i.e., perpetuating these negative business narratives, et cetera, that are super prevalent in the yoga world, then your subconscious mind is calibrating towards that. And so it takes a significant amount of effort for you to have the awareness to stay outside of that and have that not influence your actions. And that's where we see owners often having this strange tension between successes that they have in their business and like how they feel about it. It's like they actually they're like waiting for the other shoe to drop, is a comment we've heard before. And so that isn't it makes it not fun for you personally as an entrepreneur. And then also, by extension or as well, and we get this comment, I'm sure you guys mentioned this about last year, we get this comment every year where, like, very often you don't have the vision of who you personally are going to need to become in order to create the success you want. And that's actually the hard part. Because for you to have the business and the personal life and the income finance that you maybe desire, you can invent those targets in your mind, But if you've never had those things before, if you've never had a hyper successful multi-location, $1 million per location yoga studio business, then that means you also have never been the person who runs that business. And so you lack the vision on like, who would I need to become? And we talked about the necessity of future projecting. Long story short, then you put yourself in a peer group where you see someone who you're like, oh, like we're pals. We share some commonalities in family and belief systems and life and yoga beliefs or whatever else. And then you realize, oh shit, your location makes high 7 figures. You took 2 month-long vacations and paid yourself 300 grand last year. And I'm just trying to make it to the 5 grand mark and pay my bills. What the fuck? Like your brain blows up because until you meet that person and they're very tangible there with you, you're like, it's not even possible. And so not just the business side, but the personal side, if you're the accumulation of the 5 people that you spend the most time around categorically, plus, right, plus you are going to have to become someone new to get what you want, then it is a very smart technique to actively pursue surrounding yourself with those people and finding someone who's ahead of you, just to listen to how they look at things, if nothing else.
Well, I was just gonna say the personal side of it, we have a long-term YC client, and we met the other day, and she said, I just want to tell you, Terri, you and Josh will be so proud of me. She took her first vacation. She took a week away from her studio and completely unplugged. She said, I did not check in once the entire week. And this is a woman who's owned her studio for probably 15 years, right? So it's like absolutely unplugged, did not check in. She said it was great. I said, okay, now the goal is let's do 3 weeks, because that's sort of like
Yeah.
the ultimate YC goal that we've coached towards, is that you should be able to take at least 2 to 3 weeks off of your out of your business and know that it's, it doesn't need you. In fact, here's an interesting thought. You should eventually be the least important person in your business.
Well,
I mean, in terms of operationally, day to day, that if the business is solely relying on you to get stuff done operationally, and that's where I think a lot of people are. I certainly was there at one point. And then
they get stuck.
You get stuck, and you can never ascend to that level of where you truly are the visionary. And
once you embody that, that is in fact how you become the most important person.
Yeah.
Because there's only one, maybe 2 in a partnership, visionaries at the top.
Yeah.
Like yoga studios they're in the small business category, which again, we always say like small business doesn't mean actually small. Like whatever it is, 10 million, 100 million a year. It's like, it's big, but
it's under
you're in
10
the small,
million considered small in the United States.
Right. And so, but the point being, it's highly unlikely you're going to ever have the structure where you have like a board of directors making decisions. Like there's 1, max 2 people at the top. And so they are the most important. But if you're stuck operationally in the business all the time, you can't embody that position.
Yeah. Like if something were to happen to you, your business should be able to survive without you. Essentially, right? If you have a plan of succession and all that kind of stuff. But that's like the thing is, like, if you're still, and when people start coming to the summit, oftentimes that's where they at. And then again, because we do have people like that are at that level that come. So therefore it's like, oh, it can be done. Carol, you said that inspired you. You saw that, right? When you,
you just start to think about things in a different way, and then it sort of helps you structure like, hey, how do I, just like Josh was saying, how do I get there? What does my future self look like? And how do I become that? And seeing other people that are already embodying that is definitely helps you with that, guide you through that. I don't know what I'm trying to say though. What I mean?
It's that like see to believe thing. It's in a woman I follow named Lacey Phillips, and I do like the work that she created. She calls it an expander. And you need expanders to like get to where you're going. And it's really actually important for like your deep brain, like your animal brain. Like you do like these subconscious limiting beliefs just exist in all of us. It's just part of being human. And one of the extremely important ways that we overcome those things is through expanders, is seeing people, like Josh was saying, like this person is actually a lot like me. Like we have all these things in common. And she's doing that. So like, I guess I can do that, because we have all these like unbrought to the surface, like these buried beliefs that we do believe somewhere, where it's like there's a reason I can't get to this point, and there's a reason I can't get to, I can't get to this point because of this reason and this reason and this reason. And actually like bringing those forward and tackling them one by one is really powerful, and you can do that by meeting other people who have already gotten to where you want to go.
That's part of the value of a coach too.
Yeah.
Like in a similar way, one thing that has surprised me that I've learned as a coach, over more than the last decade, and I experienced it as a client of different coaches and mentors too, but is how often one of the most impactful things, not that I think it's impactful, that later on it comes out that the person I'm working with thinks it's impactful, are these little moments where we say something that I don't even think about it. Like it just comes out of my mouth because I just understand it as a form of truth based off of my experience. And it's like one or two sentences, and they're like, you said this 4 years ago at this thing. And I'm like, oh, did I? Like, that sounds good. But like that changes the course of things. And sometimes that thing it's not like it's such a monumental thing. It's a clarifier, hence the expansion of thought, because I'll give a specific example that's come up in coaching for me in this last week and a half here is on two occasions I can think of where I get on a call, we have a specific plan for what we're following through in coaching that we've customized. And then the call kind of derails because they're like, hey, well, this happened, and I'm thinking about doing this. And in two of those cases, because sometimes, things happen, you got to pivot. But in two of those cases, the thing they were talking about doing, I like had to, in good conscience as their coach, say, I have to just give it to you straight. Like, this seems like a complete and utter waste of time and focus. Like this will not immediately impact the business, negative or positive at all. There's no reason for this to be a stressor. Like, and they ask, like, what do you think about this? I'm like, I think we should delete it and fucking move on to the next thing. And so, but that's the kind of comment that sometimes then comes out after the fact. They're like, that's the thing that shifted perspective, because they just need someone else who gets what they're going through, but has seen their path follow through, be able to just give you the truth with no attachment, Well, I don't know, I see this, that's it, that's the value. So peers, coaches, etc., like that's part of that possibility.
Yeah.
So sign up, there's still space.
Yeah. I would say also the summit specifically, we've adjusted it over the years for what its core purpose is and like how we formulate it. But there is an element of like, there's like family vacation time that you can have. There's personal turn off vacation time, recharge time you can have. There's like take a little break, but you're still at home and you're doing work kind of vacation time. But then there's also this other category when it's why business conferences and shit exist, where it's like, it's not exactly a vacation. Like, you're going to work at the summit. Like, we will work you and push you hard, and it's going to get your juices flowing, and you're going to have a lot of inspiration and a lot of challenge. And like,
and you may cry. We usually have at least one or two people that cry during the particularly first time summit attendees.
I don't think we've ever made it past the first day without someone crying. Not negative, like upset, but just like, it kind of surprises people. Like, just like, oh, this is a lot. But it is also a type of escape as well, that like you leave, you get to be in a different energetic state around different people in that energetic state. And then when you come back, that does refresh you in some way. So it does help with that little bit of a vacation-y feeling.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the other thing too, oh, go ahead.
oh, let me just add one more comment. One thing I realized too is I would actually recommend to an owner who hasn't taken a full week off and like just let their studio run and see what happens. That would be the actual reason why you almost have to come to the summit or something.
Yeah.
Because in doing that, one, you have a deadline that you've got to get the core shit together to be able to do it. And two, you will immediately learn if there's any major problems functionally in your business. And there's almost no way to totally predict that until you do it. Like you just have to do it. So if you've never done it and you're thinking that's the reason not to go, no, that is the reason to go.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting way to look at it for sure. And the other thing I would say is, yes, we do work hard during the day, but it is that you get that feeling of excitement and like, oh my gosh, I can actually do this kind of thing. And then in the evenings, you can talk. That's the other thing is in the evenings, then everybody's all focused. So everybody's sharing what they're working on and helping to spark ideas and discussions and conversations. And oftentimes when people leave, they're like, I talked to Carol from Pure Hot Yoga in St. Louis, and they did this thing, and this is how it worked, and I'm gonna take a piece from that. And I talked to Bridget at Honey Yoga, and she did this thing, and it really worked well for her. I'm gonna take a piece of that. So sometimes it's like you're working on something. There's people there that you can kind of just like see, carbon copy, rinse, repeat. Here's what I did, and then so that's the other benefit too, is that you have this whole pool of resources and people to draw from, with just like some practical stuff, right? Hey, can you share? Oh, I'd be happy to share that with you, and things like that. So it really is I love to kind of sit back and watch just the interactions between the different studio owners and the synergy that comes from that, and the friendships that come from that as well. The friendships that come for that. I mean, we
We
now
have people, we have people that have become such good friends. They've all gone to each other's studios and they talk once a week and whatever. And they all met at the summit. So Carol and I had this discussion at one point. And Carol was previously an attendee before a coach too. So you have a good full perspective of it, Carol, to pipe in on this. But one of the things that I wouldn't have said early on in my coaching career, because I was concerned about hurting someone's feelings, I was concerned about being nice in the yoga world or whatever, is that the other places that you find a group of studio owners or managers are often really not helpful on the regular. Like
we talked about that. Bridget,
right.
We talked about that. Yes.
It's just it's not to cast shade on anyone or like be talking shit here. It's just, did you? Yeah. Okay. I don't need to repeat it. You guys got the same point. It's just it's like 10% of what's in there from our perspective, seeing hundreds pushing 1,000 studios, hard numbers over the industry over time, and like really seeing in the data, not just like what do I feel like, what the fuck is working or not, or what could or couldn't go, or what to consider. From that perspective, maybe 10% of like yoga owners groups stuff is actually in line with anywhere near what we would often do.
Yeah.
And so those groups can often, I feel like, actually be, I wouldn't say negative, I'm not saying stay out of them, but like they can be a mental distraction because they pull you back into conversations that are like just totally irrelevant.
Yeah, and they crowdsource again, and I really do. I have gotten so much value out of some of those groups, even with all those caveats. And we were just laughing, Josh, because I literally said the words, "I'm not trying to throw shade," and then actually, but yeah, you really do. It's just people are just. You're just listening to people who you have no idea what is going on in their business. And like people are just throwing shit out there when it's like, oh, it's just like a little, yeah, it's interesting. I was wondering if we could maybe speak to what I think is, I feel like I always use this phrase on the roundup, but like an elephant in the room, which is that this kind of thing probably sounds really amazing to a lot of studio owners who don't have a lot of extra cash right now. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking about this because of like some clients that I have that are new to us, brand new to us, which often people come to us when they are like, shit, I need to like really turn some shit around here. Like, this is not a profitable business. This is not like I'm not paying myself. And I was just thinking about how I wish I had done the summit when I was in that position as a yoga studio owner. And I have a couple clients, maybe one in particular, who is in this position because she's brand new to us. And she also is wanting to get shit done really fast. She's booking extra calls, which is great. And we're doing great. This would be so perfect for her because it, with a weekly call, which are great and we do get so much done, we do often have to talk about the nitty-gritty every day, and that's just like what happens. But the investment of getting a whole week where like you just get to talk about like these bigger dominoes and like how like the actual strategy, and then you come back and we can get into coaching and we can like do it every week, like we can put all of this into plan and we don't have to spend time like doing all the stuff that we would have done in the summit over the course of a year because we do it in 4 days at that summit. So
It's a really good point, Bridget. I think that I would look, I would never tell anyone to go into debt over something like that. But if you do have the means, and there are payment plans to go to the summit too, so just throwing that out there. But it is the idea is the summit should pay for itself too. Like, these are strategies that are 100% going to, like we said, move the needle in a very hopefully quick way. I mean, we prioritize them, in fact, in a way that's going to be like the most impactful for your business. So just like what you said, Bridget, I have clients that went last year and I keep going back. Okay, what were the goals for the summit? Let's go back to it. What have we done? What have we not done? Like, it just helps to focus your energy for the rest of the year. So yeah, it's worth it, I think, 100% if you can make it happen. Terry?
I was just say, so yes, 100% don't want to go into debt. However, yes, and asterisks. There are so many flipping credit cards out there with 0% promo. You put it on, you pay it off over a period of time. And just yes, we have a payment plan. However, it does need to be paid in full by the summit. So let's put that out there. But I have a client who's coming to the summit first time. They're coming a long way. They're in London. So and she's bringing her manager.
fun.
So that's beyond just the plane tickets are probably going to be more than the summit just because of the cost of flying. Anywho, we just ran some numbers yesterday and we've established our goals for the rest of this year. It's probably going to be the same goals going into next year. And we ran some numbers yesterday, and without even getting anybody else in the door, because her problem is conversions, getting people to buy their intro and then converting them to some type of membership package. I took the numbers from last year and basically the previous 365. And I said, okay, if we didn't get any more people in the door, we just went with the people you had. If you had gotten your people to buy, now they do a lot of class pass, so that always is a harder conversion. But I said, if you could even increase your conversion to people buying your intro, but to 50% from what it is now, and that would have been like, I think it was 23,000 pounds additional over the 1 year, just getting people to buy their intro. Right. And then if they had gotten of those people who bought the intro, if they had a minimum of 25%, which is a good average, that's a bottom of what we like to see, to buy their membership, and the average months on membership being 3 months, it ended up the opportunity there ended up being almost 90,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
The summit would be less than 10% of that.
Oh yeah, easy math.
Right, easy math. So that's where the summit can pay for itself, is when you start getting these things, you're getting more members. And it's like that needle, if this is where you're at, that needle can ramp up pretty darn quick.
So much faster, yeah.
I've got two, well, actually, I just wrote 16 notes, so 50 things to say, but based off of what you were saying, Terri, and Carol, your point as well, like, yeah, putting yourself in financial strain to do something, that you have to be very discerning with that decision. That being said, I would just add to that comment that we as entrepreneurs in the beginning, when you're in your first phase of entrepreneurial personal growth, it's typical in most cases that you're very poor at judging the value of investment in the business once you're operating. Before you're operating, we're like, oh, another 10 grand for this special fucking fountain in my studio. You're like, let's do it. It'll be important. And you got no problem taking that debt. But then you're like, oh, go away for a week and learn from peers and like a whole entire coaching team and set up my entire next year of plan and know exactly what to do and map it out and get to ask questions about the strategy or whatever. I don't know if I can afford 4,500. Like, logically, that doesn't make sense. Again, not casting shade here. It's just, that's a normal brain process in the beginning until you expand beyond it a little bit. And so here would be the question. If you are only capable of viewing going to the summit, as the example here, as an expense in your business, that's the only way that you can look at it, then you should not go.
Yeah.
It's an investment.
If you can't, like, of course it's an expense practically, but like, if you can't look at it in any other way, then like, you're not, bluntly, you're not ready. You will not take what you need to take from it. You won't get it. You're not ready.
Yeah.
And so that's a weird, I don't know, way to look at it. Terri, to your point, yes, I mean, like, whatever, you spend 4,500 plus travel, even if you're traveling from, we've had Australia come and people all, like Europe, whatever, all over the place. Let's round way the fuck up and say you also buy a bunch of shit and blow your wad and you spend 8 grand. What do you need to recoup that? Like 8 people, 10 people in the next year? You net positive 10 full-time members, like that's it.
Yeah.
And really, so you spend 8 and you make another, to get another 30 on the smallest estimate, like that would be if you don't do anything. You just put something in place because you have a plan. But we've had studios straight up, they come one year, the next year they come back, we're like, how'd you do? They were like, I didn't look until this summit, I'm 180 grand up from last year. Or like one studio, 2.7 times their business in the year. Like that's not everyone, but like everyone does grow. We haven't had that scenario for repeats, but it can be really big. Here would be the other question to ask though, beyond like the practicalities of that expense specifically. And this is more specific to the fact that we, also internally kind of call this like the annual visionary retreat sort of thing, because that's what we're doing is visioning, planning, strategizing so that you're prepped for the next year, which is a very important step that often gets missed once you're going. If you know exactly what to do in your business for the next 6 to 12 months, if you're like, I know exactly what to do to make my business grow exponentially. I know that path. I know what the biggest dominoes are, and I know exactly the strategy to accomplish those things. Then you're not at the place where the summit is hyper valuable. It'll still be valuable if you want to come. But if that's the case, then you're at the, I just need to do the work. You need to just get to work sort of thing. So that would be, those are the 2 questions. Can I only view this as an expense? And am I crystal clear on exactly what to do and how I'm going to do it? And I'm so bought in that I will literally filter every everything else out and only do that stuff, and I just need to do the work, then the summit, that would be why you wouldn't do it. My experience is that's a very small group of people. Like I wasn't that person for a decade of studio ownership plus and managers before that. Like just, it's really hard to get that level of clarity if you don't separate yourself physically from the business and get into a different headspace, different group space, and you don't have a process to figure that out, which is exactly what the summit is. It's a process that by the end, like you will know.
And when you do bring a team member, the thing we hear over and over is it helps up level that person in your business. And whether you call them a manager, a studio assistant, a lead, whatever, it's just somebody else, someone that is like your right-hand person, someone, then it totally will help up level them. We hear that over and over and over again. To the point is we actually do have a client, Bridget, who's not, her manager went last year. And she's not coming, the owner's not coming. She's sending the manager. She's like, I'm gonna send my manager. So it's not without precedent, Bridget. So we expect to see that sign up.
Hey, let me add another thing to what Bridget, you were saying earlier, like the psychology of this. And when we were talking about like, who would you personally as an entrepreneur need to become to achieve what you want to achieve? That's the other, I think, detail here as well, is that at some point, and I say this like, take this as there's a double-edged sword here, right? But at some point, you have to ask a weird question, which is, future me, future Bridget, who runs this incredible studio that checks these boxes, boop, 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 that operates like this, that feels like this at other business, does that Bridget take a week, a year off to plan the whole next year and get peers and experts involved to help that happen so that we're just in the action of doing the work and I can lead my team and so that I can have the space? Like, is that a behavior that future me does? Yes or no? If yes, then that would be another reason why doing something like this can be smart. And it like tells your subconscious mind, this is who I am, and you start moving in that direction. It tells not even just your subconscious mind, your conscious mind, and it tells your team, like it tells everyone, it's an action that says like, I'm serious about this. Yeah. And that can be really powerful. I just have to add in the caveat that like the reason this is a double-edged sword is because we've spent years developing the summit so that it doesn't fall into this category. But there is the category of like, I'm just going to try to spend money to make myself better, like to buy my way out of the problem I have or whatever. It like feels like I'm doing something by spending money, AKA like, I'm going to buy this online Facebook ads course that has nothing to do with studios. I'm going to invest in team tank tops with a new look. Like I'm throwing the money at it. That's the double-edged sword of like, when you're making decisions like this, will this up level me? You also have to realize that that isn't a behavior that's helpful. It's just throwing money at it. That's not the point. It's about the commitment to, I'm going to go to this thing that's powerful for these reasons and do these actions, because that's what the future version of me who would be a rock star would do. That's a behavior they would clearly do.
Phil, you were talking about something similar before we got on about the to-do lists, kind of that sort of goes into what Josh is saying.
You mean like feeling like the longer the to-do list, the more productive or successful you're going to be? It's not always the case. Yeah, I was just thinking like that there's, I get a sense from certain studio owners that they feel like, well, if I don't leave a call with like 10 things on my to-do list, like, what did we even do here on this call? Like, so it's an interesting mindset because I I knew as a studio owner I wanted to do less and I was trying to figure out how to make that happen, right? Like, and so this is another thing that the being around successful studio owners can do for you is helping to figure out that level up situation because Yeah, you can be pulled in, like we said, a million different directions and do 100 things in a day for your studio. But what is actually going to create the lifestyle that you want? It's going to create the space where you have other people doing the work for you, and you can take a 3-week vacation and not feel like things might burn down when I'm gone.
Yeah.
So again, helping to change your mindset or how you view your business, um, and what does a successful studio owner look like is one of the biggest and impactful things that the summit can do. Just like we've been saying over and over again.
It's
Meet other studio owners. Yeah, go ahead.
it's so no, you're so right, Carol. It's like bang on. There's this. I would say that one of the characteristic traits of highly successful studio owners, I'm thinking actually right now of a studio owner couple that I know. They own a bunch of Pilates studios out of Miami. And they're all like rock star, sold out all the time places, and they really embody this. Pun intended, highly successful studio owners are very flexible. And I don't mean flexible reactive. I mean flexible mentally in that they're able to transition from one type of work focus to another easily and stay when they're in a work focus, they're able to stay in it. So they have this ability to do both, to be hyper focused and driven and to flexibly move out of that mental energetic state to the next thing. To Carol's point and why it's so bang on, creating another to-do list is a form of procrastination. Nothing happens from the to-do list itself. You have to do the shit. So there's value in it being less long and more impactful theoretically. It's like, or if it's going to be long, it's because it's the smallest bite-sized steps where like if you just follow them, you couldn't possibly fail. That would be the only reason for it to go longer. The other side of that though is if you don't plan and you don't have clarity on where you're going and you don't know exactly what the highest impact thing is or how you're going to achieve it, you'll be busy. Like you'll never not have shit to do. You'll never not have shit on your list. But the indicator of that, and we see this a lot, is in coaching, but people first time at the summit too, is they're like 5, 6, 8, 10 years into their business. And for the last 3 to 5 years or whatever, it's just flatlined. Like nothing has grown or changed. And what they don't see until they suddenly do is it's because, and they're like, I'm so busy, I have no time. Like I don't have extra time. So how am I going to do more work? And so they're right. You're not going to do more work, but your lack of planning has created the situation where you're working all the time, burning yourself out, not getting the results. And therefore, the only thing left to realize is like you're working on the wrong shit. Being busy is not being productive. Those are totally dissociated things. So you do what do we say for the summit? Every 10 minutes that you spend in real, proper, appropriate focus planning, you save an hour in implementation. The flexibility part comes in for the highest powered owners where they can get into the state of this is the planning state where I'm going to figure out what's to do, when to do it, how to do it, and map that out. That's the summit. And then they leave that alone and they get into now I'm going to do the shit I said I was going to do. And so you could sum all that up as like the superpower is figure out the thing to do, say you're going to do it, and then actually fucking do it. It's really that simple. Like it's so dumbly simple that our brains can't even put it together at first. And so, yeah, Carol's, I know at the summit we coach to this too. It's like sometimes we have someone at the summit and then they've started to make this list of things to do. And then they're asking you about it as the coach and you're like, delete half of this. Like, is that directly related to this?
Yeah, unless it goes directly to
Yeah.
the domino that you're wanting to complete. Right?
Yeah.
Well, and then I don't know if we talked about this, but like we literally have a calendar. Like we put it into practice. It's not like you go home and you have to suddenly figure out what are the things that I need to do. I know we keep talking about that the tasks are all are that would support your vision and goals are, we talk about it, but like we literally put it into into a timeline for you. So that was also extra helpful as a studio owner going in 2019. Like we got our calendars out and we're writing down, okay, these are the events we're going to do. This is what I have to do it. And yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know where else, like you were saying, Josh, I didn't know anyone at that point who would take a full week or 4 days or whatever it is to really and truly vision it out and write down what I'm going to do for the next year. Because I
Yeah.
just, I wouldn't have had that discipline to do it. So it was worth worth it
Yeah.
100% to go and pay for that um, that singular focus with the team.
Well, I view it like one of the things that the summit is built for specifically, and it's by extension, it's an extension of what we do coaching. Like in coaching, we call it accountability. Like one of the unique things I think about our coaching practice is that we're not consultants. I'm not going to be on a call and just be like, I think this and this, and like throw some tasks together. Good luck. It's like we're making an actual plan. We're going to agree to it. We're getting really clear on it because you got to be motivated on it. And then on the next call, if you had 3 things to do and they're not done, I'm going to ask you, like, how come these aren't done? Not like I'm not going to reprimand you, but just like these didn't happen. We can't move forward to do the next thing until these are done. So like, how do we make that happen? And we're going to support you in that way. The summit, the summit
Yeah,
is this, oh, the summit workplace. Yeah. Summit's the same thing where it's like, part of the summit on the macro, the nature of the whole thing, to Carol's point, is it forces you to do this. Here's a question that I was proposed from a mentor of mine 15 years ago in a business that has always stuck with me, and I use myself now. Like, and it sounds rude, but the question to ask yourself is like, look in the mirror and be like, are you actually going to do it? And what I mean is, you might know, like, oh, I should sit down for a week and plan and map out whatever. Well, are you actually gonna like fucking do that? Like what would the first steps to be to make sure that you did that if you know that that's the thing to do? And so I always tell the story like way before having the summit, because of that, we would schedule a week a year or a long weekend, like 12 months in advance. We would get grandma to take the kids. We'd eat off paper plates. A couple times we like went to a hotel or rented Airbnb like in another town just to physically be somewhere else. And they're like, there's nothing else to do but this fucking work for these days. And we just hyper focus and do it. That was still hard. It required the discipline to do that. But we had to schedule and like put the money into like, I got this booked. I got grandma organized. I got the extra baby. Like this is happening for sure. The summit came about in part because of the fact that that's difficult for owners to take that first step. So like, we've just done all that for you. You come to the summit, we're going to, for lack of a better way to say it, like we're going to force you to look at this stuff and to move forward, including on day one, we're like, okay, let's identify what the biggest, dominoes are for your business. You get to day 2 and you're like, I don't think those are done. We'll help you figure it out, but we're not going to stop. We're like, we got to move to the next thing now. So like, what do we got to do to figure this out right now? Let's make some decisions. Let's move forward. And so there's also like a momentum you gain from that. And the paying the money part aside, it's the creating the environment and having the support around you where like you literally force something to happen. That, why not use that technique? Like, could you just have the self-discipline to do it? Sure. But I think one of the biggest fallacies in the entrepreneurial world is this discipline narrative that we have going on right now. That spirals into self-judgment way too easily.
Mic drop. I pulled these out. These are notebooks from all the different business conferences and things that I went to over the owning my studio, filled with all kinds of notes and ideas. And I can tell you, most of them, very few of them ever happened. Because that's the other thing that I always talk about with the summit is that there are lots of great conferences out there. You mentioned it, and I enjoyed going to them, right? Partly because, as you guys know, I'm so shy and I don't like to talk to people. I don't like to have fun, right? So, I never went for the fun of it at all. However, it's like I get so jazzed up. I'd have lists and lists, and okay, I'm going to increase this. I'm going to do this. I get all these fabulous ideas, and I get home and I'm like, and within 2 weeks, it's like I'm back in the trenches, and it's like, yes, there are ideas, but nothing was articulated, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
But when I tell people, for me, that is the biggest difference between a lot of other industry events that are out there that you go to versus the summit, is that we just don't sit and talk to you all day. We're not talking at you all day, and you're sitting there scribbling notes or typing at your computer. We have a short presentation, and then it's like, okay, let's get to work. And then let's help you get, so that to me is like the,
it's much more time spent doing.
It's much more time spent doing than just sitting there and taking mountains of notes.
We researched, like, obviously we've had, the first summit was in 2017, actually, in Florida, a little mini one that I did myself. And so starting from there, every year we go through the effort of afterwards, like what worked, what didn't, what's the like epiphany on how we could be more productive or helpful, what's the formulation, what's the feedback we're getting. And like, so, it's constantly calibrating towards what's necessary right now, what's the highest impact thing we could do. And to your point, Terri, we already knew right from the get that like what I didn't want this thing to be was another conference where you just go and hear some cool shit and then like have a list of stuff to do and go home and just hide it under your bed or whatever and never look at it again. Don't communicate it to your team.
In a nice file box.
Right. You have like, there's a couple little tidbits you put in action here or there, but like nothing major. But one of the things in my efforts to figure out the best formulation for what we were trying to do was a lot of study on what does work or what doesn't from the sort of if not the feedback from people, there have been tests done with masterminds, with summits, with conferences, when someone does them and then you track the person for the next 12 to 24 months and see what gets an actual result. And then you look at, okay, you got this result, and then you go look at the conference that they went to, like what's that attachment point? Results equals from this action. And what is it that people report versus what do people report is valuable? And so, Terri, you pipe in on this one, and Carol and Bridget, I'm not sure what ones you go to, but like Mind, Body, Bold would be a good example. But a lot of conferences out there, if you ask someone like, what's the most valuable part? The number one answer across the whole group will be networking or some version of that. It'll always be about, I met this new person, I made a connection. There's even the adage of like, business at a conference is actually done at the bar. And so that's interesting. That's not that that's not true. It's that the nature of the typical conference structure is that is the highest value piece because nothing else is truthfully that valuable. And that epiphany punched me in the face. I was like, that is not what we're building with our summit. We'll probably do a conference that's just a pure conference, at some point too, for the fun of it and to have another outlet like that in the industry. But that's not what the summit is. So that to your point, Terri, like that's why day one, yeah, we're going to talk about stuff. Yes, you can ask any question. Yes, there's formulas. Yes, there's whatever. But then like, we're going to do it immediately. And so our feedback, we do get that like, yes, the peer group and the connections I made, that is in the top 2 or 3 feedback pieces of what's valuable. but it's not the definitive top one. It's only in the top 3. And there's an equal amount of, especially like the manager group, 100% of the managers last year, their top feedback piece, positive feedback piece, was that they learned something to organize themselves better. That was the number one feedback piece that they all had. None of them said, I got to meet a bunch of other cool managers, like is in their top. They all said that that was cool, but like, so to me, that was a positive indicator for us based on what we're trying to do.
You know what? Probably one of the top things I got, because I went to Mind Body Bold 17, 18, 19, wasn't in 20, 21, and 20. I think 22 was the last one. So I went to 5, and I went to Mind Body University like 6 times. And the single top thing that I got out of that whole experience, and I'm not sucking up here, is Josh. Because that's where I met you.
I didn't see that coming, Terri.
Didn't see that coming? Yeah. Yes, because
what is it?
I met Josh at the 2017 Bold because he was there. He was present. Actually, I presented as well, but he was presenting, and he had one of his clients when he was. Anyway. So I was thinking about that. So I just wanted to say that, and that comes, from the heart.
I'm blushing. Thank you, Terri.
I know. You're welcome. So yeah. So connections are important, obviously, for sure. Anyway, I don't know where we're going with that. So, okay, what do you think? I think this is a wrap.
It's a wrap. Sign up for the summit if you really want to talk about it. Maria will jump on a call and look at. She won't just jump on and try to convince you to go. She'll jump on and be like, okay, let's objectively look at your business and what you need to focus on and who you are and who your team is. Is the summit the right thing for you?
Yeah.
Like we are very discerning that way that, anyone's welcome to the summit, but we really do want to help people figure out, like, is this the right thing? So if you're not sure, send us a note, comment down below. We'll reach out. We'll just talk for 15, 20 minutes. Make sure, is this the right thing or not? If you've listened to this and you're like, clearly this would be beneficial, then here's your call. Here's my direct call to action. Like, what are you doing? Sign up. Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll put it in the comments. It'll be linked in the comments below. All right. So Carol.
All right, that's a wrap on this week's Weekly Roundup. Tune in every Friday right here on Facebook, or subscribe to Studio Cult TV on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening from. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.